Hey team, welcome to another Bullpen Bulletin with Coach Hart and Building Better Baseball. Today, we're going to talk about playing with emotion and why I think that is the wrong term to use. And we're going to go over some strategies on how to not play with emotion or how to use emotion to your advantage in baseball. Remember, I'm Coach Hart. This is Building Better Baseball, the best place for baseball education. And let's get into playing with emotion. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is, what is emotion? Why is emotion almost bad for players when they are in the game? Now, emotions are erratic, right? Emotions come and go like the wind. If you are angry or you are sad or happy or elated or excited or anything like that, they're very short-lived because they change like the wind depending on how the game is going. All right, and if you base your performance on playing with emotion, then that is exactly what your performance will be, is all over the place, right? So when coaches say play with emotion, I feel like that's the wrong term to use because you're telling the players to play with anger and then play with sadness and then play with happiness and then play with all of these things where your emotions are just going all over the place depending on how the game is going, right? You could, in the game, if you're a pitcher and you're playing with emotion, you could be super angry at the last at bat you had because you just got out, right? And you thought you should have been safe. So you're going out there, you're playing with anger because that's how you feel. And then you throw the pitch and then they hit a home run or they score a run. Now you're playing with even more anger, but also some sadness. And then you get the third out of the last inning and you win the game. And then you're playing with happiness. It's going all over the place because that's what emotions are, right? Emotions are kind of erratic. They come and go like the wind, and they just come and go and come and go, and you don't really have a set baseline of where your performance is coming from, because if you let emotions control your performance, that's exactly what your performance will be, is all over the place. So the next tip that I'm going to give you is a different way to look at playing with emotion and a different mindset that you can have in order to kind of steady your performance and make sure that you're performing steadily at a baseline the entire game. So the way that I think that all players should play is having mental clarity. And what does that mean? So mental clarity is playing with energy, playing with intensity, playing with aggressiveness, right? Playing with strength, playing with alertness, being alert at all times. All of those terms are not emotions, they are a state of mental clarity. All right, so when you're playing with high energy, or let me rewind. So the mental clarity and all of those are your baseline of where you can base your performance off of, right? They do not change. If you are playing with energy, right, and you are just high energy the whole entire time, you can maintain that throughout your entire game, and that is a good way to play. That is a good baseline to play at. If you are playing with intensity, it's the same thing. You can maintain your intensity throughout the entire game and have it not impact your performance, right? If you play with alertness, you're being alert, right? That you can maintain that the entire game, right? If you are playing with aggressiveness, like obviously some aggressive, if you're an aggressive base runner or aggressive player or whatever, that is not necessarily always good, but it is better than playing with an emotion, right? And if you're playing with strength and all those things, right? All of those little terms that I just used are a state of mental clarity where you can base your performance on and you can maintain the entire game. Now, I am not saying that you don't have emotions in baseball, because obviously you do. So you can have moments of emotion, right? Moments of emotion. You just struck out and you're super angry, right? You can have that moment of, man, I really should have gotten that pitch and I'm angry right now, or I'm mad, or I'm upset, or anything like that. But don't let that dictate your performance, and don't pull from that emotion to power your performance, right? switch that. So have that moment of emotion, right? When you go back to the dugout, obviously we should not act on that emotion, like throwing your helmet. That's unacceptable, right? You can have that moment of emotion and you can feel that feeling, right? But then come back to your baseline of, okay, I need to play with more energy. I need to play with more alertness. I need to play with more intensity, right? That's where I can baseline. That's my baseline that I can base my performance on, right? That's where I can pull from to power my performance in the game. And that's where I can just kind of go back to, because that's powering my performance, right? So you could have a moment of happiness, right? You just swung and you just hit a home run, right? I'm super happy, I'm super excited, going around the bases. Okay, so I can't maintain that emotion because, like I said, emotions are erratic, they're all over the place, and that is a hard place to stay when you are trying to perform at your best, right? So have that emotion for a short period of time and then come back to your baseline of energy, intensity, focus, right? Alertness, strength, all those things that you can base your baseline on where you can pull for your performance. So I know it was a little short video, but I just wanted to kind of put it out there that a lot of coaches say play with emotion, and I think that's the wrong term because, as I said, emotions are all over the place, right? You don't want your player's performance, and if you're a player, you don't want your performance all over the place, right? You want to have a steady baseline of where you can pull from to power your performance, and that is playing with energy, playing with intensity, playing with focus, okay? Playing with alertness, being alert, right? Playing with strength. All of those things are things that you can maintain as a baseline throughout your entire game. And then you can, like I said, have moments of emotion, but go back to your baseline after you have that emotion, right? Emotions happen in baseball, emotions happen in all sports, but that's not where we should live, and that's not where we should pull from to power our performance. All right, so hopefully this makes sense that instead of playing with emotion, we should play with a state of mental clarity. And all of those terms that I used are states of mental clarity that you can base your performance on instead of emotions. You can have moments of emotion and obviously don't act as behavior, like don't act on those emotions, but have that emotion because nobody can tell you how you feel. If you feel that, then that's how you feel. But make sure you bring it back to your baseline of that mental clarity, and you will have so much better just kind of success on the field long term and throughout a game, throughout a season, throughout everything, because those terms, that mental clarity is where you can pull from as your baseline of your performance. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully this kind of made sense and just kind of shifted your idea of, instead of playing with emotion, you can have moments of emotion, but play from a state of mental clarity. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed. Make sure you grab your free parent starter pack or your free coaching starter pack down in the description. It has a whole bunch of things in there to help out any new parents or new coaches, and feel free to grab it if you think it would be helpful, okay? So I'm Coach Art. This is Building Better Baseball, the best place for baseball education. I'll see you in another video real soon.